I chose to watch Blue Velvet by David Lynch. I chose this movie because I'd never seen it before and I thought it looked intriguing. Blue Velvet is a movie that strongly uses the concept of cinema of intersection. The cinema of intersection is what McGowan refers to as a traumatic encounter with the gaze. It separates the world of fantasy and the world of desire. It consistently represents the two worlds from the beginning of the movie. In the opening scene, you see Jeffrey's dad having a stroke. The camera moves underground and you see creatures separating the two worlds. Jeffrey is a young man who seems infatuated by detective work after he finds an ear and brings it to Sandy's father, Detective Williams. Sandy and Jeffrey are old friends from high school. Jeffrey piques Sandy's interest by mentioning the ear to her. He also comes up with an elaborate plan to sneak into Dorothy's apartment by posing as an exterminator. Jeffrey was successful in making it in and out with a key to her apartment in hand. Jeffrey and Sandy went to a nightclub where Dorothy was seen singing Blue Velvet, and they left early so Jeffrey could sneak into Dorothy's apartment again. However, this time Jeffrey was not so successful. Dorothy caught him and threatened him with a knife, and she also made him strip. In the middle of this encounter, there's a bang on the door, and Dorothy shoves Jeffrey into the closet. Frank barges in and starts committing sexual acts upon Dorothy. It is a very excessive scene. He curses at her, slaps her, penetrates her, and calls her mommy, all within minutes while Jeffrey is watching from the closet. Jeffrey relays what happens to Sandy, and Sandy and Jeffrey are somewhat attracted to each other, although Sandy has a boyfriend. Sandy and Jeffrey kiss, but nothing more than that. Shortly after, Jeffrey returns to Dorothy, and they have intercourse. Dorothy tells Jeffrey to hit her, and he refuses. She keeps on asking, and then he finally gives in. Frank catches the two of them together and takes Jeffrey along with Dorothy and what appears to be members of his gang. They taunt Jeffrey, and at one point Frank tells Jeffrey that they are alike. They abandon Jeffrey in the middle of nowhere after beating him. Jeffrey tells Sandy's father and is warned to stop doing detective work. Jeffrey and Sandy then go to the dance and profess their love for one another. When returning to Sandy's home, Dorothy interrupts the confrontation by showing up naked. The cinema of intersection is strong in this film. Dorothy represents a world of fantasy, while Sandy represents the world of desire. Jeffrey desires a relationship with Sandy, who has a boyfriend, going hand in hand with the we want what we can't have theory. Jeffrey fantasizes about Dorothy, not just sexually, but the mystery of Dorothy seems to enthrall him as well. Zizek describes Dorothy's apartment as a hellish place where anything can happen. This is a world of fantasy for Jeffrey. He is intrigued by the life that Dorothy lives. The two worlds are distinctly separated in many ways. Dorothy is wearing dark clothes and has dark hair, while Sandy wears white clothes and has blonde hair. Sandy is an innocent high school girl, and Dorothy is an older woman who could be described as a masochist. When she told Jeffrey to hit her and he finally gave in, it shows that Jeffrey also desires to be like Frank. There's a scene in the movie where Frank and the gang members are all in the car, and Frank turns around to Jeffrey and says, "You're like me." This also confirms that Jeffrey desires to be like him because Frank himself took notice. These two worlds intersect when Dorothy shows up nude to Sandy's parents' house. My key argument of this essay is that the spectator is Jeffrey. Jeffrey shows curiosity in Dorothy's life and wants what he can't have with Sandy. Jeffrey also desires to be someone like Frank, someone who he is not like at all, except that he is once the movie goes on. Spectators can relate to this because we are always aspiring to be something more or someone more. That is not to put Jeffrey's behavior in a positive light, but to show that he may have had an insecurity within himself and saw something in Frank that he loved and hated at the same time. He also wants to have his cake and eat it too. Spectators can relate to as well. In conclusion, Blue Velvet is a film that is separated by two worlds. These worlds are the world of desire and the world of fantasy, which is also known as the cinema of intersection. It is not hard to see